How do you best get a jury to understand the trauma response? When doing a deposition, it became apparent the importance of understanding because people have a preconceived idea of what a trauma victim looks like. If they came in and were wailing or crying or not have distinct physical injuries, then it must not have happened.
Right. So SANE nurses do an awesome job testifying, and it really is on a case-by-case basis. But there's all sorts of experts, trauma experts, who could be called in. And so if you are a victim or you know a victim, you're working in the arena, testify. Do you know how many therapists will not go into court to testify?
Yeah.
Lots. So we need to hear from the experts. This is a natural response. And then the attorney should be calling those experts. And of course, there'll be experts on both sides. But first of all, it's really difficult to get doctors to want to come to testify. It's really difficult to get therapists to want to come to testify. But it's really important that we have those trained experts, qualified, and that they inform the jury. And I think that the state bar, the law schools, and the medical schools should partner together to have cross training, because lawyers need to know about trauma, about how to ask questions of their clients, about how to do even a cross-examination without having the victim flip out on them, and they do that because, they're trying to get at the truth. Cross-examination is the greatest truth teller, but what they're doing is re-traumatizing the victim, and they can very well lose their case, which, you all can say, well, that's a good thing. But maybe it's not a good thing. They can lose their case because now we have the jury feeling sorry for the person that's being cross-examined, which is completely appealable. And we don't want the re-traumatization. In a bad case, there could have to be a new trial. Imagine that 3 or 4 or 5 years later, having to relive that. So we all want to get it right. Why don't we have cross-training between the medical schools and the legal schools? Why? That's an easy thing to do.
One thing to note about the therapists is I went to many therapists because I was involved in the legal system. A lot of them would not see me. It was really hard to find a therapist. On the other side, being a therapist, I totally understand that because they don't want to be cross-examined. And I had a therapist tell me that it gives her great anxiety and she was concerned about ruining the case or, like doing harm to their client. So I get that on both sides. But yeah, it's challenging to have all these professionals working together and being able to provide victims with the necessary services and stuff. And a lot of times when victims are talking and stuff, they are talking in fragmented sentences or not sharing their story in chronological order and that kind of stuff. So it makes people skeptical a lot of times if their story is true, So yeah, having witness testimony is great for that.
Well, and I want to say something about trauma too, just overall. Everybody should be trained to never tell a trauma survivor that they need to learn a lesson from the abuse or from, walking out at night or in that short skirt or what have you. Or, well, just be glad it wasn't worse. I mean, all you're doing is re-traumatizing the victim, and it's going to shut them up and shut them down. And it's horrifying to them. There are so many missteps in the arena of trauma, especially sexual assault. But, trauma comes in all sorts of forms.